Time now for our international press view with Owen Fairclough today. Owen, what have you got?
Mark, we're looking first of all today at the fallout or the reaction to these latest attacks, latest bloodshed in the Westbank. Just to recap, 5 militants killed by Israeli security forces there yesterday. Newspapers across the Middle East covering this. The Jerusalem Post has a fairly graphic picture you can see there of one of the bodies of these militants being held aloft after being killed. And similarly, the Al-Quds London-based Palestinian paper has a similar graphic photograph of a body of one of the militants. There's a feeling certainly in the West Bank and in Israel that we've sort of been here before, just as things were starting to calm down. More violence, more rocket attacks. And this is a point picked up by Haaretz, the Israeli paper, which, as I say, suggests we've been here before. It also questions the timing of this operation, suggesting that certainly 4 of these militants weren't associated with any particular terror alerts, and questions why these attacks or this operation had to happen now when things were starting to calm down, with talk of an Egyptian brokered peace agreement.
Interesting too that something happens in the West Bank, then there's a reaction in Gaza, so it's actually sort of linking the two very strongly when it seemed they were quite separate. Now it seems they're both together. Interesting stuff. Interesting and very violent. What's next?
This is a subject, the violence in the West Bank is certainly going to be high on the agenda. In Africa today, of course, it's the International Conference on Islam in Senegal. This is a huge event for the Islamic world. 57 member states attending, representing over 1 billion Muslims. It's been picked up, obviously, by newspapers in Africa. Al Mujahid is an Algerian paper which has been looking at this. And it suggests that this conference is taking place in a very difficult climate for Islam, with Islamophobia high on the agenda and obviously problems in the Middle East. It's also been picked up by another Algerian paper, Liberté. And this newspaper questions whether this conference shouldn't have taken place in 2006. This was, of course, when Denmark published the cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad, which led to so much violence and supposedly so much Islamophobia.
But no comment on the issue that Chad and Sudan didn't sign that document on Darfur? Nothing on that?
Nothing on that that I've read so far.
Let's keep looking out for that story then. What's next then?
Well, coming back to France now, we've got a worrying number of suicides at Renault, one of France's premier car makers. Been a 4th suicide there at what they call the Techno Centre, and this has triggered an inquiry, a national inquiry into levels of stress in France. It's been suggested certainly that staff at Renault were under huge pressure to perform, driven to breaking point effectively. Le Parisien newspaper that you have there picks up this story, makes the point that work-related stress isn't solely restricted to Renault. There have been similar suicides at big-name companies like HSBC and IBM.
It talks about that post, it talks about France Telecom, it talks about PSA, which is Peugeot. So obviously, I just say a theme running through French business there, definitely.
Absolutely, and of course this inquiry now, a national inquiry led by the government into the problems associated with stress at work.
Worrying stuff, very worrying stuff. What's next?
Well, Mark, are you much of a blogger?
Well, we write a blog for the France 24 website, france24.com. You can find out whatever goes on in the newsroom. So, yes, I suppose I must be.
You're au fait. Well, that's good to hear, because the Paris Book Fair is opening today. Libération newspaper, the French newspaper, has allowed 50 writers to take over the paper.
There we are.
One of the articles has 7 writers talking about their blogs on the internet, and it appears as an increasing tool among French writers to get published. There's some lovely phrases there. One writer suggesting that blogging online is like throwing stones into the water to create ripples.
Well, let's hope those ripples create more sales of books, because the more books that get sold and read, the better it is for life. That's what I think of it. Owen, thank you very much. That was our International Press Review. You're watching France 24. Stay with us.